Hello, we're back. Welcome everyone to the My Darling Dreadful Thing live show by Johanna van Veen. Today we will be discussing My Darling Dreadful Thing, the group book for Nevermoreathon. I hope it goes better now. We had a little bit of a trouble. So we read this book for Nevermoreathon, and this is about Rose. And Rose has a spirit companion. And her mom makes Rose fake seances, and it goes really far. Her mom let her go really, really far. Way further than Rose is comfortable with. And Rude is kind of protective. That is the spirit companion. And then Rose meets Agnes, who is also a spirit companion. They also kind of have a similar background, but I don't want to go into that now because it is spoilery. So, as usual, we will talk about atmosphere first, then characters, then plot, and then spoilers. If we talk about spoilers, I will put this right here so you can see it is spoilers. If it's not, we're not talking spoilers, guys. Let's keep it, safe for everybody who wants to join, even if they haven't finished yet. Hello, hello again, and we're back. I was like, did it work? Did it work? Like, this is why I'm like, I'm glad that my internet, when it cuts off, the stream is that. Things go wrong here. I'm thinking today's guesses. Yeah, I don't know what it is. I am now on cable, so it should be good. Also, I have the camera of the laptop. That's why it's so pixelated and not good looking. But just to make it easier for the laptop to handle, because I got the blue screen of death yesterday as well. And the laptop has been acting weird for several months now, but we kind of don't want to take out of the building money for it. And especially now that we have to wait for 2 months before you'll get paid, we really don't have the money to buy a streaming PC, because I don't just want to buy a laptop to go for another 2 years. I just want the good stuff now. My darling dreadful internet. That sounds like a good synopsis, Ewald. Yes. That's what happened. Hello again. Yes, that was a good one, right? We enjoyed it. All right. That's why I did the whole synopsis again, because I am planning to remove the other live stream. So, because I know Jess, for instance, wants to watch it back, and it is going to be so confusing when they're two. So, that's why we're doing this. I know already your guys' rating, but if you want to say it again, that's absolutely fine. For the completion of the live stream, I gave it 3 stars. There were some things I really enjoyed from this, and there were some things I did not, which is a bit unfortunate because Blood on Her Tongue was 5 stars for me by Johanna van Veen, and I'm not sure which one was written first. If this was her debut or Blood on Her Tongue. Yeah, alright, this one was first. Alright, maybe that's one. 2 stars, did not like it, yeah. I'm sorry, Ewald, I am sorry. Let's talk about the atmosphere first. That's where we were at. And the atmosphere is kind of weird for me, not gonna lie. Because it had some parts. Honestly, this book should have hit the mark for me. This had everything that would make a 5-star book for me, yet it is not. 3 stars for me. Yeah, we have the same scene. It was weird because you know, when Rose is forced to do the fake seances, it gets really, really, really abusing. It is very dark. And I can appreciate that. And then when Rose meets Agnes, we're getting that old money mansion that I absolutely love and adore in Gothic horror. So I feel like the setting had everything to be eerie, but it just wasn't as eerie as Blood on Her Tongue. And I think I'm very annoyed by it because Blood on Her Tongue was so good for me because of the eeriness and the atmosphere. And that is what I really expected in this book. And for some reason, that didn't land. I have to be honest, I think that if I would have read it physically instead of audiobooking, I would probably have liked it better. And maybe that's the reason why atmosphere wasn't that good for me. I can definitely see that it was dark, but it was more in a distant way and not feeling immersed in it, if that makes sense. I also did not like the group book, but it was all for the points. Oh no! You did not like A Sorceress Comes to Call, Ewald! I haven't read it yet. But it's the Kingfisher, so it cannot be bad. With the actual ghosties, I felt the atmosphere, but without them, I did not, if that makes sense. That is interesting to me because I was debating if it was the ghosties that lessened the atmosphere for me. Because the ghosties are definitely not the most frightening part here. If that makes sense. Like Rude was sometimes, scary. She got, I don't know. Rude can definitely be scary. But I think because Rose wasn't scared of Rude, neither was I. If that makes sense, I feel like that's maybe why. I got nothing out of it. Oh no, my first thinking is not likely to pick up another. I have to be honest with you, Ewald. I don't think that was the best first TK Kingfisher book for you. I think it is way more likely that you would like Hollow Places or What Moves the Dead or the Twisted Ones way better because that are the gothic horror retellings by T. Kingfisher. And I think that is more up your street than dark fairy tales are. But maybe I'm wrong. But that Sorcerer's Comes to Call is the fairy tale side. So that might not be the side of T. Kingfisher you like. Yeah, only Rude. I wasn't feeling it as much as the others. Yeah, but Peter was so nice. I have not been scared of Peter for a second. I would like to have a ghost friend as Peter. I would not mind at all. If I got haunted by Peter right now, I would not mind. The other dude, how is he called? But he had very ill intentions. That one was scary, maybe. But I think it was more scary alive than that. Yeah, I just wanted to tell you that there is still a chance. Yeah. But that's why I think the atmosphere was more, I don't know. Maybe it was also less descriptive. I don't think I can really picture the house right now. I think in this book, the most scary thing were the characters. And I think it is absolutely intended that way, but therefore the atmosphere wasn't as scary as I was hoping for. Yeah, it's filmed as a mystery instead of horror. Yeah. But Peter also didn't get much space as a character, I feel like. No. No. Could be that it was Thomas, yes. Thomas was scary because they were scared of him, but for the most part we didn't really know what he wanted to do. Yeah, but I think that might make him scarier. Because he obviously had very, very bad intentions. And sometimes imagining what somebody with bad intentions can do is worse than what they're actually planning. So I don't think that is necessarily a bad thing. Hello, sorry I'm a bit late. Don't worry, Evka. We had a bad start anyway, so we have to jump through another live. And we just talked about atmosphere, but it kind of sort of almost immediately run into characters. And that's kind of where we're at now. I was saying that the atmosphere for me was a tiny bit lacking, and I wasn't sure why, because technically it fits all the boxes that I want in a atmospheric gothic book, but yet I do not feel the atmosphere. And maybe it was because I think the characters in this book were the most scary part, and therefore the atmosphere felt lacking to me. But I also think that is very intentionally done. The characters were definitely supposed to be the scary part of this book, so that's all you've missed. I gave it 3 stars, Larissa gave it 3 stars, Charlotte gave it 3.75. Barbara isn't sure yet because she just finished it 5 minutes for the live show, but she is thinking maybe a 4. And Ewald absolutely did not like the book but gave it 2 stars. So now you're kind of up to speed. That's it. If you want to let us know what you've rated it, or if you still have thoughts about atmosphere, please feel free to share them. I also feel like it wasn't that well explained how the spirits were able to interact with the world. Yeah, that was also something I was missing. That it was something I wanted to say with the questions you sent me. Because let's I will get them right now. Because the first question was, Ruth is an unusual character. Describe her physical appearance and her behavior. What sets her apart from what you think of as a typical ghost? And I felt like you could, do that for all the ghosts in the book. Without spoilers. This is spoiler free still. That's the hardest part. Um, and for me, their appearance, like, you saw parts of their body were misformed because of that. That is very similar to most ghost books. I don't think physically they were that different, but what was different is that they can actually interact with the world and they could take possession of humans and interact with the world that way too. And I think that is where it's different from other ghosts or spirits that I've read. And it is mostly the they can interact with the world without possessing part that is very different. So Tom Tom felt one-dimensional. He just wanted power and to hurt them. Yeah. But it also felt quite accurate. I know a few men that were exactly like Tom. So it didn't feel like unrealistic to me personally. Welcome, Evke, to my darling, dreadful internet show. Yes, my internet is also a darling, dreadful thing right now. We can't do spoilers yet, or do we? No. Only when I put the pink spoilers on. We cannot do spoilers yet. That is the hard part. I think the most value of discussing this book is in the spoilers. I get that connection with atmosphere and character. Yeah, it's weird because I can't really tell you why exactly. Because it had old money mansion type of house. There was definitely abuse and, very screwed power dynamics that all make for an eerie atmosphere. And then you add ghosts to the mix. It should be 5 stars, but it was not. Just now I realized talking about Thomas is kind of spoilers. I honestly think that if you haven't read it yet or you're only halfway, this does not mean anything to you. As long as we do not say how he is connected and what he's doing, I think we're good. But if you guys disagree, we can scrap it. Like, I'm fine. I think 3 or 3.5. Yeah, thanks for yeah, no problem at all. Oh no. Well, thanks. You would love to join us here. Yeah, it's chaos. You subscribed all for chaos, guys. We are at 350 right now that love chaos apparently. So I'm loving that too. Tom Tom's second plan to make us break spoilers too early. Yeah, that is. He's doing it again, you all. Because we knew about the ghosts from the start, they are not as a scary mystery to begin with. I don't know. I think it lost it a bit later for me because I think how Ruth is first described, and you early on get to see how Rose met Ruth without really knowing about their current relationship. That description was scary to me. That was very interesting to me, and at that time I had the feeling, all right, let's see what this ghost brings us. Like, I'm very curious. This might not be the benevolent ghost Rose thinks she is, if that makes sense. So at that point, I was very interested. But then we had the whole part where Ruth was trying to be helpful, and I think that's where it lost the airiness for me, because then it was just a protective friend ghost at that point. Yeah, it could, there is no surprise there. It is not a scary mystery. There is no surprise. I'm not sure. But we're kind of heading toward characters anyway. Let me check these questions again, because I feel like a lover. Oh no, this is more atmosphere. We can do this first. Like, while Rose and Mama's seances are fake, do you guys think they still helped people? Yes or no? Also, I'm very mad about the seance. I'm very mad. Yeah, I don't. I have problems. But that was the part of the book that was atmospheric, the most interesting to me. I must say, I absolutely love the title of the book. The title of the book, as well as the cover, amazing. Really enjoyed it. And the seances, I and enjoyed that they were in the book. I really, I don't know. I find it funny and atmospheric, very interesting to have fake seances in there. It is something I really enjoy reading about. Obviously, I'm extremely angry about Mama and how she is forcing Rose to do stuff during those, or just let people do stuff to her in those seances. That is what got me angry. That is supposed to make you angry. So it's good. That is written good. It worked. It got me angry. I would guess that they help people. If the people believe it, then it is enough. Doesn't matter if it's real or not. I agree. But is it helpful for them to move on if they keep coming back for more? I think if it was a one-time thing and they would say, like, yeah, I'm in a good space, you don't have to worry about me, it is extremely helpful. But if you have to pay for it every single week and you keep coming back to be able to talk to your loved one that died, is it helping to move on? Is it helping to live your life after that? I think that is an interesting one. We can have a whole discussion about that. I thought we would have gotten more about the seance, but we moved on very early. Yeah. Yeah, we did. And I think that is where it lost atmosphere for me. I feel like that's where it happened. I like the seances. I like the scary stuff that happened in them. I like the atmosphere of the floorboards. That was all very, very scary stuff. And there I did felt threatened as Rose. Which, I think rightfully so. I feel like she was threatened there. So, depends on how it's done. If it's more like Mommy Dearest was a scam artist that had then come back. So not in this. Yeah, yeah. Honestly, if it was done in like a one-time thing to give people closure, absolutely. But this was not done for closure. This was to write, to carve out the wound some more. And also, I would say it depends on where they are in their Yeah, absolutely. I don't think it's necessary, healthy or good, but sometimes got a desperate things to get through things. So it depends. I don't judge anyone for trying to lay contact with the people they lost. And I think it could be very helpful, even a fake seance, as long as, the actor in that case would just say that they're moved on, that it's good for them now, and that they're, they are moving on, so they can't have contact any longer, but they want them to live their life, and we will meet again in the end. I think then it can be extremely helpful. I just don't think Mama did it well. But that was not Mama's intention, was it? She wants you to come back every week and spend more money. And that she did. So, but yeah, I think the characters in this book were the most scary and dangerous. I think there were a lot of toxic relationships here. But I do love how the trauma of it all has been written and how it's been told and how it's been dealt with. Definitely, Mama was not a nice person. I would like to have put Mama under the floorboards. Like, I would have let Ruth do her thing. I'm not as nice. I can be very vengeful. I would have been vengeful. Yeah, I don't like her. I did like Agnes. I didn't like Rose. I think Agnes was the only person I liked, actually. Kate character betraying outraging readers. Yeah, she had a few of them. And I do think that is, it's really well done. They were absolutely meant to enrage the reader. And that's exactly what they did for me. This is a book about abuse, and I think it is very, very well done. Oh, I accidentally clicked it. Please tell me the chat still works. She didn't give shit about anyone but herself, and she had the nerves to play victim. Yeah. Yeah. That enraged me a lot. But it was also recognizable. Yeah. Mommy Dearest, Tom Tom and Sisters can share the place on the floor. Yeah, like there were many candidates for the floorboards there, right? Tom Tom obviously made me very angry. I think that's also why I liked Agnes. I would have done the same. Willemijn was horrible too, yes. But when we first met Willemijn, it was immediately obviously, right? She's a horrible person. And I liked that. I really enjoyed Willemijn from a reader's perspective. I think she was a very interesting character. And because there was obviously sort of a mystery around her, I think she was very interesting in the start. But then it was the same over and over and over and over, and it kind of got a bit childish, and that's when she lost me. Like, I don't care anymore. But the first few chapters we had with Willemijn, they were very interesting to me. Because she actually created part of the eerie atmosphere for me when we met Agnes. After the seances, not a lot was eerie anymore, but Willemijn was. So I really enjoyed that one. Up until later. Then she got a bit the same sea. If that makes sense. And then I don't really like her anymore. She just got boring. But I liked her at first. As an interesting character, not as a person. And of course, our other villain that follows us throughout books, miscommunication. Yeah, that's yes. Although I do get parts of it here. Especially between Rose and Agnes, I do get the miscommunication. I do feel it is really hard to talk plot up with this book without spoilers. The one thing I really, really want to talk about is definitely spoilery. Um, because the plot is basically Rose is forced to do fake seances in an abusive environment. Agnes takes her away and ghosty shit happens. That is what you can say without spoilers. Or do you guys, you can, can say something else without spoilers? That would be helpful. Let's go and put the banner. Yeah, right? We need it. Guys, this is the last reminder. If you're here or if you're watching this back and you still haven't finished yet, please leave now. We're going to drop major spoilers right now because I'm dying to talk about it, but it will spoil your ending of your book, which for me was the best part. So please go now if you have not fully read the book. 3, 2, 1. So, about the ending. That was absolutely the best part for me. Do you remember we had the bunny live show over on Barbara's channel? And I was very angry with how I think it was supposed to be a psychiatric issue, but it wasn't told. There were no hints. It was not. This is how you do it. This is what worked for me. Would probably not have worked for everyone, and I'm absolutely fair. This works for me. That we have an unreliable narrator all the time. You know something is going on. Especially with the possessing. I was like, because there's a lot of trauma, right? And then when we're going to talk about ghosts taking possession of you, and that's when you act out of revenge, I'm thinking multiple personalities immediately. Might be my job. That fixes that. But that's where my mind goes. So seeing in the end that the doctor thinks she is having psychosis and that the ghost friend might not be real, and that every time that when she takes medication, it goes away and stuff, that is, for me, how it works. It is still not clear if it is real or not, because you will always have this discussion, because even if it is a psychosis or different personalities for the person having them, it is absolutely 100% real no matter what. And I think that is very interesting. For me, this is how it was done. That is the part from the book that I really, really enjoy. Making you guess, is this a disease or is she actually seeing ghosts? Let's do spoiler. Tomtom moving of the status was major level petty. Yeah, but also this is why we're not sure, right? Because Peter and Ruth both can be manifestations of trauma. Both Agnes and Rose have been abused by people and have traumas because of it. And Thomas is also, obviously, it can, he caused the trauma. So it could be a manifestation, but he never had to possess somebody to make things work. So, and Willemijn saw him too, which could make sense because it's stated at the end of the book that there is a very rare phenomenon where people actually do have shared psychosis, so it is possible. Same as in Gozer, and as long as it's possible, it is fine for me. It's rare, but it can happen, specifically because they're both in similar traumas, but they just very much choose to deal with it differently. I think Agnes and Willemijn both have same traumas, but deal with it very differently. So it manifests differently. But it's weird that he then could move things without them being possessive. They obviously could have made it all up. I don't know. I can't remember if the police found Rose in the house with broken windows or not, because that would make it be a sign. I was thinking about you a lot when reading that. Yeah, I absolutely loved it. I just did it because I thought of you. I was like, oh, this is what I meant, right? This is how I want the bunny to be. And I was like, don't. That is a spoiler, Denise. You cannot send it to people. Don't send it. Oh, moving the state was brilliant. So terrifying. Yeah. And then moving Saint Agnes. I love that imagery and, the double meaning of it. That's, yeah, the statues were creepy. Yeah. Imagine, right? Looking out, and there are all these statues. The most funny part for me was Rose trying to move Peter to the bog. Yeah, that was, no, it was Thomas. Yes, it was Thomas. Because Willemijn manipulated her to do it. And I knew the moment Willemijn opened her mouth to not trust this woman. And she did trust the woman. It was like, yeah, that ain't smart, Rose. Don't do it. But I really liked how that played out. I did like that manipulating. I honestly think this book dealt with the trauma and the manipulating really, really well. I obviously have a lot of traumas. Um, I have a lot of experience with manipulation and abuse. And I think it's written really well. It was very, very recognizable for me. And I do love that. And that's why it still got 3 stars. But I like this more as a psychiatric book, a psychiatric thriller, or it's more an asylum book for me, which I love asylum books, than it is a gothic horror book. And I expected a gothic horror book from this, so it was a bit different for me. But I also got taken out of the story because of the mispronounced Dutch words. I think if I would have read that physically, it would have been a 4-star. Was it Thomas? Yeah, it was Thomas. Peter is the nice ghost, and Thomas is the asshole. Keep mixing all the names, yeah. The most shocking part of the book was the incest. The family is rotten to the core. Yeah. And it was shocking to me that Willemijn wanted it. And again, that is trauma response. That is obviously not healthy. It's probably she only got love that way, and that Thomas was the only person giving her love. That she just wanted love, so she would take it like that. So I think Willemijn is also broken. But yeah, it's hard for me to imagine that you want it then. That is shocking to me. I know it happens, and theoretical, I know how it works, why it works. I know it, but I can't feel it, if that makes sense, right? It is hard for me to to put myself in the character. Yeah, I just wonder how it went down. Did Rose and Agnes go into shared psychosis, starve themselves in the house while moving the statues? Can definitely be. It's I don't know exactly about Agnes, but I have a very strong feeling that for Rose, Ruth is not real. Ruth is a manifestation of her trauma, and Ruth is how she justifies to stop the trauma happening to her in the only way she knows. Because she literally said at some point, I let her in because then I can say it is not me, it is Ruth. And it feels safe. And that made me think that it was definitely trauma and Ruth is not real. Which, we don't know for certain. It's speculated, and I like that. And it would explain a lot, right? Because there has been a lot of violence against Rose. She has been grabbed at, she has been raped, she has been shoved on the floorboards, she has been starved to death. Like, there's a lot going on. if you're powerless and you can't really move your body because a man is on you, it is not unthinkable for me to think that you would bite somebody in the neck, even if it's in the front, to defend yourself. And I also think that somebody as vulnerable as Rose, it would be helpful for them to have somebody else do it in their mind. So that is when your mind split. It is, in the real world, in psychiatry, that is what we see most. That people form different personalities or get psychosis to deal with stuff like that. So it is very realistic to me that Rose did it, but she has imagined it to be something else because that is the only way to deal with stuff like this. And then it would make sense that she really want to kill her mom, and her deciding not to do it because her mom was already dying anyway. That would also make sense. And I like that she had the stealing issues when she was with Agnes, that she was stealing food everywhere and she couldn't help it, and she was very, she knew she was doing it. That's obviously because she has been starved for so many years. But it would also make sense that Rose has abandonment issues and issues with bonding over people, because that clearly not happened with her mom or anyone safe that she'd do it. So it does, in a weird thing, make sense that Rose would kill Agnes as soon as she came too close, because then it was not Ruth mixing in the glass. And it would make sense that Rose believed glass would kill somebody if she'd read it in a novel, because that's what she told, right? She read it in a novel. In a psychosis, it's very normal. It happens a lot that they have seen or read something and think it's real. That is basically the whole diagnosis, that you can't differentiate what's real and what's not. So it would make sense that Rose would hide the body in the book, and therefore actually drowning her. So it kind of makes sense to me that Root is not real, but it's a manifestation. But it is hard to explain Thomas in that way. Peter, I could explain in that way too. But Thomas is a hard one. To be fair to Rose, the only people she had connected was Mommy Dearest and Agnes, so she wouldn't recognize the kind of manipulation. Yeah, no, she would not. Or, yeah, no. Maybe, I think later on, because at that point, Rose was still learning that her mom manipulated. But I think if you would give Rose a couple of years, she would have understood that her mom manipulated, and then she would probably have recognized patterns. That's how I recognize it. Start, right? Like if you grow up in manipulation and you're years behind it, you kind of see how people do it. But Rose wasn't there yet. So I don't blame her for believing that, because she also desperately craves the love that Agnes could provide, because she was immediately drawn to Agnes, because at that time you should not fall in love with a woman, so it would be free. It would be something daring to do. But also, she desperately wanted love because she wasn't loved. She hasn't felt love. So she was obsessed with Agnes. So doing something unspeakable, if you're obsessed with one person that might finally love you, is also not unthinkable. Even if you deep down know it's manipulation, it makes sense that in that case you don't want to see it, so you do it anyway. Yes, she was very isolated. I don't like Rose as a I don't like Rose, but I feel for her. I feel for somebody in a character in that situation. Um, But I didn't have anything to bond over with Rose, if that makes sense. The rich have been also very weird people all throughout time. Yeah, yeah. That's why I'm not concerned that Thomas was one-dimensional, because I know a lot. Unfortunately, know a lot of power-hungry men that is all they want, and they don't. They don't care how they get it. They don't care who they have to break for them. As long as they have the power, it is fine. Like, there are also diagnoses for that. If you're going that route anyway. With the psychics, you know, Thomas should be a narcissist. And it would fit. That is the most important thing to them. Have power over people, have power over as much as possibly can, because that gives them security. So, yeah, that might make them one-dimensional, but it is kind of realistic, if that makes sense. I'm not delusional. I'm simply manifesting see you later route. Yeah. Right? That's, yeah, I honestly think that I have a theory. I believe Rose knows fully well that she would not call it delusional, but that she is manifesting it, that she made root in existence. Let's just say it like that, because I'm not sure what terms Rose would use. But I think Rose knows very well root is not real. She made root, and she chose to keep it like that, because sometimes that feels way more secure. That is her coping mechanism, and it is really hard to let coping mechanism go. So I really liked the ending part where she was very angry with Root about, killing Agnes, her one love, but then her deciding, my darling dreadful thing, I need you anyway, because I cannot be happy without you. To me, that signifies that Root very much chose, or that Rose very much chose to keep Root, even though she made her up, or however you want to call it. But she willingly chose to live that way because it felt safer to her and more secure than without Root. And obviously, she was angry about herself for doing it, and it goes a bit deeper than that probably, but Rose is a very intelligent human, because she kind of, I wouldn't say played the doctor, but she did test the doctor. And at this point, Root really wants to believe, Rose wants to believe that Root is real. And if you tell that yourself for too many years, it becomes real. So I'm not saying she's lying to the doctor, but I think she knows deep down the doctor is right. And Root is not real, but she wants Root to be real, so she is not taking the medication. That's the whole point, right? In the last scene with Agnes too, saying we could take the medication and it's all over. And her then having a very hard time letting go of Root. So it is a reoccurring theme, and that's why I believe Root is not real. It is a psychosis. It is her coping mechanism. Interesting. Yes, yeah. Yeah, I think it is not a real ghost. In his role, when someone says to Rose, cope harder, Ruth will go on killing spree. Yeah. Yeah. If she does not know what to do, Ruth can take over. We're gonna kill people, and then it's not my fault. That's literally what she said. Ruth takes over, and then it's not my fault. So it is easier to deal with. And if that does not describe a coping mechanism, I don't know what will. And Peter can be described in the same way, in my theory, right? Because this is just my thoughts on it. So I'm very eager to know if you guys agree or if you think that the ghosts are absolutely real. Because Agnes was way kinder in a sense than Rose was. Maybe she was more adult or however you want to call it. Because Agnes knew what Willemijn did. But she still chose to care for Willemijn. And I think Agnes just at some point got to her limit, snatched out, killed her husband Thomas, had regrets, and then went caring for Willemijn again and, not do it again. But where Peter is different from Ruth is that Peter has all the freedom. Peter can go anywhere. Peter is not tied to Agnes in the way Ruth is tied to Rose, because Agnes wants freedom. So her manifestation has freedom. Whereas Rose wants just to connect to somebody. She wants to be loved. So Ruth is there always being overly protective and stuff because that is the only love she knows. It is twisted. Her, because her mom was twisted. And so I feel like those ghosts were very much in line with how they deal with their trauma. And that's why it's hard to explain Thomas in that way. Because yes, Thomas is obviously, the causing of a lot of trauma for Agnes, so it would make sense that he manifests, and it would make sense that she is extremely scared of her. And it would make sense that in her mind, she would threaten her and the one she is actually happy with. But how? Yeah, I don't know. Can he move? Because he had a lot of. I don't know. If the police didn't find them with broken windows, it would make sense. If the police found them with broken windows, it is harder to explain because why would Agnes throw the windows out when she's scared of Thomas? If that makes sense. I felt like that wasn't really left up to really. It seems like the book concluded that Ruth was only psychosis. I don't know, and I think that's why one of the questions is like, let me read it properly for you, because otherwise, it's my kind of my own spin. But Rose is an unreliable narrator as you read. Did you trust her perspective? What did you when did she surprise you? And then they ask how Dr. Montague, treatment of Rose, how do you think he sees her, and why do you think Dr. actually ultimately helps Rose? So I do think it is kind of up for debate. Do you believe Rose is saying and very vividly believing that it is real? Or do you believe the doctor? But I do agree that it is more set up in a way that there are, in my opinion, a lot of evidence why it is a psychosis. The entire thing about the ghosts is that they are and aren't real. Depends on the reader's view and how to. Yeah, exactly. And that's why I was like, this is what I want to talk about. What do you guys feel like? How are you guys standing in this? What is your view, and who do you believe, and how do you interpret this? Um, yeah, I think that is the best part of this book. Interesting to hear. Thank you. I really like stuff like this. It is my job, right? I work in the mental health industry, so I have seen clients that have I have had clients with psychos. I also had one client with multiple personalities. So it is fun for me to see some parts of uh, client experience in there, or if I could make it make sense in that way or not. I just find it weird that they both have the same kind of psychosis. Yeah. However, their traumas are extremely similar in a way that they're both abused by somebody that had power over them. And it was for both a relationship they could not get rid of. Like, they couldn't escape that relationship, right? So it kind of makes sense that the same sort of trauma ends up manifesting in sort of the same way. And more so for, rape and physical abuse, is it known that people make up make-believe stories or characters, or whatever you want to call it. I don't mean it rude or in any way disrespectful, because for most people in that kind of situation, that is the only way to deal with it, to feel safe, to imagine that you're somewhere else and that it does not happen to you but to somebody else. And that is less so with Agnes trauma. Agnes trauma, I feel like, is mostly mental, which hurts a lot, and it is way harder to prove. So in that way, it can be harder to get out of, but it manifests less in making um making up persons or situations to escape those times. However, the only way you see shared psychosis is between patients. That's how they called in the literature, is when they have an extremely strong bond. And Rose and Agnes do have that. They both cling to each other because that is the only time they really loved. So they're both kind of obsessive over each other. So in that sense, it would make sense that they have a shared psychosis because their bond is very strong and the trauma is somewhat similar. Similar or not. Like, a lot of my friends have traumas because we kind of bond over those traumas, even though they're not exactly the same as mine. We, you know, I'm thinking of two other friends now. So the three of us both or all have one or two, or parents that abuse us either physically or mentally, and it is in a very different way, but it is still sort of relatable, because in most cases there will be manipulation and stuff like that. So I can. It is a very rare case in real life, right? It is a very rare case, but it does happen, and everything that needs to be there for that situation to could happen is there in a book. So I personally don't mind if stuff like that happen. So agree. I guess my analytical mind says that since medication made the spirits go away, it is clear it was some kind of psychosis. It was totally real to Rose, but not actually real. Yeah, but this is very interesting to me, because you all know my nerve is stuck, right? And what happens is, because it is nerve pain, real pain medication does not work. So I'm getting a lot of hormones right now, because when you are in constant pain, your mind is making different hormones or missing hormones. So I get medication to get a lot of the we don't have stress, we don't have pain hormones up. So my brain thinks I have no pain anymore, but my nerve is still stuck, if that makes sense. So it is not actually helping the problem, but it is faking my mind, because it blocks certain hormones that should give the pain away, and my brain just doesn't see that now, because it is being blocked. So it can't register those pain symptoms anymore. That's also how ADHD medication works. That's why I have more problem with my ADHD now. So I can see that there is medication that will lose you. Like, I have it, it's kind of embarrassing to say on the internet, so I won't, but there are things that I have almost no control over now, because I'm taking those hormones. And there are things that, you should have control over, things like your bladder. So I can see that there are medicines that could mean that your brain can't do or see things anymore that there should be there. So for me, it's not immediately all right, they're not real kind of thing, but it is definitely a sign for me that says, yeah, it's on the psychosis side. Absolutely. It's just an escape for them. Yeah. I think so, personally. I think so, yeah. There are actually proven cases of shared psychosis based on some events, so it can happen. Yeah, it is proven. And it's always they also have similar cases, and they have a strong bond together. That are the two things that I can point out that helps a shared psychosis. For the rest, they can't figure it out. There's not a lot known of it. But yeah, but Peter was already there before they met. We don't know that, because we only saw him when they met for the first time. We saw a face then. And I have seen this with patients, and I'm not saying this in a disrespectful way. I am absolutely not. And I'm not saying it is not real for them. Absolutely not. But I have seen patients meet other patients, never talk to me about certain things happening in their life. And when they met another patient that they really click with, and they had that happen to them in their life, they all of a sudden come with that has happened to me too. I have similar situations, whereas, you know, I might have known them for years and they never come with it. So at that point, is it real, or have they talked about it so much that, you know, they believe it now too, but it didn't really happen? A mind is a very fickle thing, and you can make, like, there is a lot you can tell your mind to believe. Um, somebody in my family has been um in, it's not per se an asylum, but it has been in an institution for mental health. When that person got in there, they were very self, they could do everything. They could drive with the bus, they could take um buses and trains, they could put their own shoes on, they did a lot of things by themselves. They were very independent. When they got out, they couldn't do any of that anymore, because they have been told many, many times by the people working there that they could not do it. And if they keep telling you for 2 years you cannot do it, you are starting to believe that, even though they had previously done it. And it took so long to get it out of the system again. And I feel like if you can make your mind believe that you cannot go with the bus when you have gone with the bus for hundreds of times, it is absolutely possible to tell your mind that you have always seen a ghost. If that makes your life easier, if that makes that you have always had a person to help you out, I feel like it is absolutely possible to make your mind believe that, even if it hasn't been that. If your mind can believe, stupid stuff that you can't do, that is very unhelpful, it can definitely believe things that are helpful for you, and the ghost is helpful for them. So yeah. Yeah, Peter was our ongoing psychosis from childhood. I'm also thinking not everything Rose say Saul Peter do is the same thing Agnes Sam do, if that makes sense. Yeah, that could definitely be that they interpreted each other psychosis differently too. That could definitely be it. Yeah, it does make sense because Ruth and Peter could both disappear. Yeah, yeah. But also at that time, the book was said they easily declare women insane, and a lot of drugs would just fuck the brain. Yeah, like it's insane what you can make the mind believe. Like, there is actually a chance that my mind has made up, my nerve is still stuck, even though it might not be. That's why they're trying different therapies now for me, just in case. So it is so weird how your mind can take things that, even for me, even if it might not be the most logical thing, I absolutely believe you can take over somebody's psychosis. People can tell you that you have always had a ghost friend and you will believe it, even if you've never seen a ghost friend. I think it is very plausible, even though it is not the most logical thing. And that's why I think it is psychosis. But we don't know. In either way, it is very, very, very real to them. And, real people died, so. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but yeah, it is. Over the years, I've seen so many things, and it is so weird and sometimes really creepy, to be honest with you, what you can make your mind believe. So yeah. That was my tyranny about psychosis and stuff. And why I think it is plausible. I'm sorry, I'm probably going. I'm starting to feel my stress level right. Yeah, please don't. I'll finish watching on time. Thank you for Denise for hosting. No problem, Barbara. Please don't get stressed about it. That is not the intention. But yeah, I can see why, Barbara. I can see why. That is why it was a bit harder book for me to read today. Because there is a lot of, you know, um, a lot of things are similar. Or not exactly. A lot of it is very close. So yeah, I just wish I read this physically. I think that would have been better for me than the audiobook. But I had to choose which book I would buy. And some of them I could not really get on the audio. So, and this one I could. That's why I did this one on audio. Is there anything more you guys wanna say? I feel like I have my journey, right? I have my whole wild theory. I got way too personal, but it's I feel passionate about stuff like this because and this is also why I work in the mental health industry. Obviously, but I did not expect the book to go there. From just the title and the synopsis, I didn't expect that it would be so much about trauma and how to deal with that and stuff like that. But that is the part of the book that I was enjoying the most. And so let me know because I think we got a lot of this book done. I keep looking if my internet is still there because if I don't see chat, I'm very afraid that I get kicked out again now since it happened today. I said everything I want to say. I can see what the other was trying to do, but it didn't deliver quite. Yeah, I also can see that. I can see it because it was only 3 for me too. So I think we quite have the similar issues. I can see it. Yeah, but this she wrote this before Blood on Her Tongue. Blood on Her Tongue really really was the gothic horror retelling book that I it's not really retelling, but inspired by gothic horror book that I wanted to read. Yeah, My Darling Dreadful Thing was her debut in 2024, and then Blood on Her Tongue was in 2025. She also wrote that in Dutch, and then she also wrote middle grade about witches in 2025. So. Or maybe that's still coming out then. Oh, a unicorn ate that page. Yeah, it's still coming out. In the 6th of October is her middle grade book coming out. Oh, and here it says 26th of August. So like 4 days ago. I'm confused. So it's either just out or it still comes out. It is interesting because it's the first book in a middle grade trilogy for fans of Coraline and the Sinister Summer series. I like both. And I'm not sure which is the title of the book and which is the series name, but the triplets Grimm, and I think that is the series. And then the title would be The Witch of Hagstone Hill. So it looks interesting. Yeah, you can't really see, but oh, I'm saving Blood on the Tongue for the yeah. I don't want to spoil it. It does have it had an unexpected twist for me, and at first I wasn't sure if I liked it because I also wanted something from that book, which it wasn't. But after I got over that, I think it was really good, and the twist was very unique. If that makes sense. I try not to spoil it, obviously. I do have an unrelated stat in this month. I have read a total of 10 recommended books. It has been good in that regard. Oh, that is good, though. That is good. I like that. I like that a lot. And I also feel like, didn't we need a debut? I think I needed a debut book for something. But I can't remember if it was really him. I know it's in a horror bingo board, but I think I've already crossed that off. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. But I think that's all you can say about this book. I kind of do wish there was some sort of spoiler in this book because I do feel like it is more about trauma and abuse than it is about ghosts. And that might be had been helpful to know in the start. I do not think that like I get it why Barbara also gets anxiety from this book. It was very hard to read for Judith as well, and I absolutely get it. And I think if you would have known that this was the topic of the book, that you can make better decisions if you want to read it or not, if that makes sense. Because it's not just a ghost story. That is what I expected going in. That it's just a ghost story. I think that's it for tonight. I think I'm gonna end it now, so I can still lay a bit on the couch before I go to bed. Or I'm just waiting for you to come home, basically. Thank you all so much for being here. You can basically point out this for certain, whether they be ghosts or manifestation. Only people with extreme trauma can see them. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that is a good summary. I think that is how it works. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. You definitely need to have trauma to see the ghost. It doesn't completely explain Thomas though, so that's where I'm like, I don't know. Yeah. And I think, the whole interview wasn't as nice to have on audio as it would have been to just read it because it was literally P, D, and then, yeah. Thank you for saying no problem. Good luck to everyone who still needs to finish their last books for Nevermoreathon. You have one more day. I will give until Monday afternoon to lock your books. And then I will film the winner because that is going live on Tuesday. So if you haven't locked your books for Nevermoreathon yet, please try to do it tomorrow. Otherwise, in the morning the day after. But I kind of need to film it on Monday. Thank you all so much for being here. Hope you had fun in Nevermoreathon. I hope that it was still interesting to read the book at least. Even if you didn't like it. You got a lot of points out of it. So I hope it's worth it. And I will see you in the next one.